Welcome to the NintenFusion podcast, a podcast that fuses past, present, and future Nintendo thought. I'm David, accompanied by my friend Jordan. Now, Jordan, one of the funniest things is that Nintendo really didn't want to repeat the disappointing sales from the Wii U lineup. So it was obvious and very clear that they needed to make a Switch.
Oh. I was expecting you to make a joke about the ambulance making the Wii U sound joke.
I mean, those are all over the place when it comes to jokes about the Wii U. Like literally 20 on this website are like, what's a police officer's favorite console? The Wii U. And oh no, the Xbox Live services are down. Someone call an ambulance. Wii U. And I'm like, no, that one's overplayed. We're just going to do a simple little tongue-in-cheek jab at the terrible sales of the Wii U. So that's what I did.
All right. Well, so as the viewers could probably tell, today we're going to be talking about the Wii U. Largely because we missed its 10-year anniversary. Just kind of crept up on us and went by.
Yeah, that was November 18th. So happy late 10th birthday, Wii U.
November this year was a pretty busy time anyway. We wouldn't have been able to get around to it. Also, to date this podcast, we are recording just hours before the release of Fire Emblem. So we are not talking about Fire Emblem because anything we would say right now would just immediately be out of date by the time the episode comes out.
Yeah, I think the game technically launches digitally in like 3 or 4 hours. So
yeah. Although I do want to quickly say, so the reviews came out for Fire Emblem, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discussion of the game is not very social heavy. It just goes from battle to battle. And so it's getting a bunch of bad reviews because of it. And I'm reading all these bad reviews and I'm like, but this sounds great.
This is Fire Emblem, guys. This is how it used to work.
This is what I wanted. So maybe I actually will pick it up because it's surprisingly not the game that is going to be focusing on all the dating sim stuff.
The other good news, Jordan, is that the game is built in Unity and it runs way better than Three Houses did.
Oh, yeah. Three Houses ran about oh man, Three Houses. It reminded me of Sonic 06. It reminded me about the Sonic 06 days.
Well, Three Houses was apparently built on top of the Dynasty Warriors engine. So I don't know what happened there. But yeah, so it's built in Unity, which is also interesting for those of us that have modded Switches. Unity is really easy to modify. So I'm sure there are going to be some really fun difficulty patches and additional content that fans will create that we could potentially play on the side. So really looking forward to that. A lot of fans ended up doing that with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl because those games were also built in Unity. So maybe it's worth getting the game, if only for the potential mods that'll come out in the next 6 months.
Yeah, so I actually might get this one. I was pretty down on it. I still know almost nothing because honestly, I think that Nintendo's marketing of this game has been pretty bad.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we can straight up say that our first prediction for 2023 was wrong. If you listen to last week's episode, there was no Fire Emblem Direct.
There wasn't any direct. It almost feels like they're sending Fire Emblem out to die, weirdly enough. Maybe they just didn't have as much confidence in this one. I don't know. It's weird. Nintendo does whatever it feels like. It's really hard to kind of track what they do because there's just no consistency with them. Yeah,
for sure. But anyway, we will definitely talk about Fire Emblem next week, I think, if that gives us enough time to play. So look forward to that. I'm definitely picking it up. I have actually been very curious in the game for the last 2 weeks, and I want to give Fire Emblem a good fair shot again since I got burnt out from fishing in the last game.
I just said I might pick it up, although there's a part of me that feels like I really should play through Triangle Strategy first.
Oh, true. I still haven't touched that one either, and I still have it.
So maybe it'll give me the excuse to actually go pick up Triangle Strategy this weekend.
Pick a different JRPG that you're more interested in.
Yeah.
So yeah, look forward to Fire Emblem in the next week or so. We'll talk about it. Whether or not Jordan picks it up is up to him. But what is our main topic then today, Jordan? Kind of moving away from Fire Emblem.
Right. We're going to be talking about the Wii U. Like we said, it is now a 10-year-old console, which is kind of surprising. Although I think it's like also the shortest lived Nintendo console. It was only 4.5 years. And since we're coming up on 6 years on the Switch, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it was 4.5 years, right? So November of 2012 until March 2017, right?
Yeah,
That's when
and
Zelda
they
came
dropped
out?
support on it fast. Like when the Switch came out, that was the end of the Wii U.
Yeah, that poor console. I know a couple of people probably still miss it, but I think the majority of us were happy to move on to a more interesting console that had much more support from Nintendo. I think that the unified vision of moving away from 3DS, splitting the handheld and console market really helped in the long run.
Yeah.
But we're not really talking about why the Switch is better necessarily. We kind of want to do a look back on the Wii U, right?
I do think that kind of brings up a big point of the Wii U is that there were some really severe droughts on the Wii U. Despite only being 4 years, it had some of the lengthiest droughts in Nintendo history, right?
Yeah, it was incredibly painful.
And a large reason for that was because Nintendo was split between 3DS and Wii U. And since they're handheld, so 3DS games were far more difficult to make than previous handheld games. And then on top of that, they were tackling HD development for the first time. So I think Nintendo just kind of bit more than they could chew.
Yeah.
And were just spread too thin between two systems that both demanded more work than they had ever experienced up to that point.
Well, and the 3DS already had a larger install base by the time the Wii U was even a year old. The 3DS had outpaced it. Even though the 3DS had a really rough first year in its launch, It ended up picking up the slack later. And so I imagine that a lot of that split between console and handheld development was also deliberate so that they could take advantage of the larger install base, since the Wii U really never took off.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem never made the switch over to the Wii U.
Well, they did.
I guess.
They did have the Persona spinoff with Fire Emblem.
Oh, that's right. What was it? Fire Emblem Cross or
Hashtag
Hashtag. That's right.
One of the worst named game titles ever.
I never played that one. And then it came out on the Switch and I still haven't picked it up. Don't you have a copy of it? So it's
I have a couple
item?
copies because I thought my thought process was, so back when the game was new or whatever, the rule had always been pick up Fire Emblem games because they always go up in value. Pick up Atlas games because they always go up in value. And the Wii U was a dying console. And this is a stupid game that no one's going to have any nostalgia for. So they're never going to print it again. There's not going to be a port.
So you made a bad investment.
Yeah, it turns out. Turns out Nintendo was more than willing to just port it over. Because after hashtag FE, that's when Persona exploded in popularity.
Yeah.
And Fire Emblem was still on the upswing. So
right. But I mean, no mainline Fire Emblem game showed up with the traditional gameplay. Pokemon only really made an appearance through Pokken and other small things. The 3DS was still a massive powerhouse. Plus, they decided for whatever reason to re-release some GameCube games and N64 games on the 3DS instead of making HD versions to put on the Wii U. We got Majora's Mask 3D, we got Ocarina of Time 3D, Star Fox was on the 3DS. They put Luigi's Mansion, the original, on the 3DS for some reason. They really did not care to put some of those games on.
They had to wait for a more powerful iteration of the 3DS, and they put it there instead of the Wii U.
Yeah, that one's still weird. Though I will say one of the nice things about the 3DS version of Xenoblade was the music player. It was one of the only Nintendo games where you could just put on a playlist of your favorite songs from the game. And that was nice because it was like, yeah, this is my handheld console. I can plug in my headphones and listen to Xenoblade music.
I also think the combined nature of the 3DS development with the Wii U development kind of took away Wii U's best chance at a killer app. With Smash Bros. Smash Bros was a dual release with the 3DS and the Wii U. I think the Wii U version still sold better. I don't remember.
I honestly don't know. I don't have those numbers handy. I know that the Smash Bros. For Wii U one was about 5.3. Okay, by the end of September 2022, according to Wikipedia, the 3DS version of Smash Bros. For 3DS sold 9.64 million copies.
So yeah, it was the more popular version.
Seriously, Nintendo made all of their money during that era on the 3DS.
Yeah. And they tried to like make a few version exclusivities for the Wii U versus the 3DS on like Smash Bros. But really, like the best mode of Smash 4 was on the 3DS and with Smash Run. They should have just put it on the Wii U. The Wii U was so starved for content.
Yeah, there was like hardly any single player stuff for Smash Bros. For Wii U.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And their idea was, the Wii U will be for like 8 players or whatever. So it's going to be more multiplayer focus. And 3DS, it's harder to hook up multiple controllers. Most of the single player stuff will be on there. And so you just kind of had like a half-baked game on 2 different systems, it felt like. So yeah. I liked Smash 4 for what it was because Brawl's multiplayer was just really bad and Smash 4's was acceptable.
Yeah, it showed us that we could actually have somewhat quick gameplay in Smash Bros. Again. It wasn't as good as Melee and not as good as Smash Ultimate in terms of like speed and precision and whatnot, but it was definitely miles better than Brawl was. No more random slipping and tripping, and there were some pretty interesting pieces of tech that you could do. I remember watching quite a few Smash Bros. For Wii U, or as most of the fans call it, Smash 4 tournaments on Twitch, kind of like when the Smash scene was starting to really kind of take off around that era. And honestly, they kept it alive.
Yeah. But like it was only miles ahead of Brawl in the multiplayer, which is admittedly the most important part of Smash Bros.
Right.
But Brawl and Melee just dominate in the single player content compared to 4.
Absolutely. I mean, Ultimate has a good amount now too, but the Wii U is like there's nothing. Yeah, there was not much. And like they gutted even like stuff like classic mode and all-star mode, and it just was a convoluted mess for some of those modes where you just I don't know, man. I don't know what they were thinking. Oh yeah, yes I do. They had to make 2 games simultaneously.
Yeah,
that behaved almost the same.
Yeah, they shouldn't have split their development between the 2 games. That was, in my opinion, a big mistake. But at the same time, the Wii U definitely needed Smash Bros. To succeed, and the 3DS version sold better. So I guess that it worked out in the end. It had to be on both systems.
Right. Oh man, the whole development split between the 2 is just, it's so bizarre. I mean, we were hoping for a 3D Zelda game for the longest time, and they kept telling us it was coming, but then the entire Zelda team made Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, which phenomenal, fantastic game. Don't get me wrong. But it definitely delayed, the killer Zelda title on the Wii U. We didn't have a massive Mario title on the Wii U other than like the 2D Mario games. There's no 3D Mario.
We had 3D World.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But
the worst 3D Mario game, in my opinion.
True. The port that they made for Switch fixed like every issue that I ever had with it. They made it faster and more consistent.
I still don't like the momentum in it.
You don't?
No, it feels wrong. It just, I don't like the running in it. They took a lot of design principles from like previous Mario games, such as like the 2D games. 3D World, they were trying to turn a 2D game into a 3D game and then add in the multiplayer that was really big with New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
Right. Well, and they were also trying to merge in the 3D, 2D hybrid game from the 3DS that was before it.
Yeah, 3D Land, which I actually like 3D Land. It's 3D World just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. But those games were pretty big and they were among the top sellers. Mario kind of dominates the list of top sellers for the Wii U. But like, no major 3D Zelda that's new. We, of course, got the HD remakes, which I really enjoyed and were really fun, upgraded versions of the games. But like, no new Zelda title, no new Metroid title, no, it was kind of like an interesting blank period of time. And I feel like a lot of that is due to the 3DS.
Yeah. I will say, before we get corrected in the comments, Breath of the Wild did come out for the Wii U. It was originally supposed to be a Wii U game. Everyone thinks of it as a Switch game, though, because it absolutely dominated in sales.
Yeah. You're right.
But also, I believe Tanabe wanted to do Prime 4 for the Wii U, but and he said in an interview that it got denied because he had already... He understood how much like investment it takes to do like a proper HD game. And he claimed that Nintendo didn't quite understand that quite yet because they were pretty new to HD development. And so they turned him down because he gave like a realistic budget. He wasn't trying to like fudge numbers to get like an under budget Metroid game. He wanted to do it right.
Yeah.
So that's why like Metroid didn't show up. Because Sakamoto was off doing handheld stuff, trying to get Dread going, and then eventually moved on to Mercury Steam to get Samus Returns. And then after that, Tanabe went to Next Level Games, where they were then making Metroid for 3DS as well. So with a canceled Metroid game and then followed up by Federation Force.
That one.
Yeah. So, which also just brings me back to my previous point that like Nintendo just wasn't prepared for HD development.
No. And I think what really made matters worse regarding our expectations for the Wii U was the demo that they gave clear back before the Wii U actually came out. They had this really awesome like showcase of cool visuals that the Wii U was going to be capable of. And then like none of that ever surfaced. The biggest one that fans remember was like this 3D Zelda that looked a lot like Twilight Princess, but not quite, even though it had like the same gigantic spider boss. I forget her name, Queen something.
Goma?
Yeah, Queen Goma. They showed that off and it looked so cool and so awesome. And then we didn't get Zelda until Wind Waker HD, and then we got Twilight Princess HD, and then we got Breath of the Wild, which is just vastly different. And so fans were like super excited at the beginning, like, oh, does this mean that they're working on like another, like a follow-up to Twilight Princess? And that never surfaced. And I think that those types of demos really set the tone for the Wii U for the more dedicated fans, and it just didn't pan out. On the other hand, that whole E3 presentation also set the tone for the rest of the Wii U's life in making people think that it was just an upgraded accessory via the tablet to the existing Wii. Right?
Yeah, they didn't show the console. They refused to show the console. They were just focusing on the tablet. Like, it was really confusing if this was a new console or just an attachment to the Wii, or if this was just like a refresh of the Wii, but is capable of HD graphics. The name did not help at all.
No.
They went with the Wii U. There's, I don't think it's ever been proven, but there's like a common like saying that, or belief on the internet that there was some market research that has found that you don't want your product to have those smaller number, right? And so PlayStation at that point was moving on to the PlayStation 4. And so that's why like both Nintendo and Microsoft at the same time went away from like the number naming convention, where Xbox went to the Xbox One or whatever. Who knows what Microsoft was going. Apparently, this was also the reason why they went to Xbox 360 instead of the Xbox 2, because they didn't want an Xbox 2 sitting next to the PS3.
Yeah. And Sony was like, yeah, we're just going to keep going.
Yeah, so Sony has the number. Going. Like Sony apparently is the only one allowed to have a reasonable naming convention. Because Xbox, the Series X is also a dumb name.
They could have gotten rid of the Wii branding, but they were so hard set into the Wii branding by the end of the Wii's life. They had Wii Play, Wii Sports, Wii Music, Wii everything, Wii Sports Resort. Like, if they had gotten rid of the Wii branding, then they would have to come up with a new set of like game titles for these somewhat pack in, but like more casually games like we got with all of the Wii series games on the Wii, which is why we have like kind of the awkward naming for Nintendo Switch Sports now with that release, even though it's definitely like a sequel to the original Switch Sports or Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. So like, I get it. It's hard to come up with the new name of the console without dropping all of that branding, but I feel like keeping it Wii U without anything massive just really hurt them in the long run.
Oh, yeah. And like they tried so hard during that E3 to sell the name to us. And everyone was just the whole internet was just like roasting Nintendo over it because it was just the most ridiculous, confusing name. And on top of that, we were trying to like figure out the name and then also trying to figure out if this is even like a new console.
Yeah. I mean, I was firmly in the party. Like I remember defending like, this is a new console, guys. Just look at it. Like, there's no way this is the Wii.
Oh, yeah.
But there were people that were convinced the other way. It was bizarre.
Yeah, I had an E3 watch party that day, and like half of us, like I figured it was a new console, but half of us, like at that watch party, like hardcore franchised Nintendo veterans or whatever, half of them still thought it was just an attachment to the Wii. And we had legitimate arguments over it at the time because it just wasn't clear.
Yeah.
It didn't help that they revealed it like a whole what it was a really long time before release as well. They revealed it with like
year and a half.
Yeah, they revealed it with no games. I think they revealed it early because there just was nothing coming out for the Wii and they needed something for E3. So they revealed it with that demo with Zelda or whatever. And didn't announce any games because they clearly weren't ready for any games they could announce. And when they did a full showing of the Wii U, we still had no like understanding of the system, but we went in with expectations of Zelda, and instead we got Lego City and New Super Mario Bros. Wii U
and Nintendo Land, right?
And Nintendo Land, yeah. Like they put up this big hype, like we got one more final announcement, Nintendo Land, and like everyone thought like they were building up to like Retro's rumored title that we thought was coming out soon.
Yeah.
Instead, it was Nintendo Land, and Nintendo Land was great. Like it was fun, and it was like a good like demonstration of what the Wii U was. But also on the topic of Nintendo Land, they made an additional mistake that it was only packed in with some Wii U's. It was supposed to be the game that was like supposed to demonstrate what the Wii U was, if I remember right.
I honestly don't remember.
I mean, looking at the sales, considering it's far less than what the Wii U sold, it obviously wasn't packed in with all of them.
Yeah. But yeah, just as a confirmation, they revealed the Wii U at E3 2011, gave another presentation in 2012, and then it released November of 2012. So a whole year and a half to sit on the Wii U right from launch with like no major Wii releases either. So I guess it was a good thing they had the 3DS out at that time so they could start building up that library while we were like, what on earth is happening with the console?
Yeah, I think Nintendo was really banking on the casual market because it worked phenomenally with the Wii. And so they wanted to keep that branding and they wanted to focus on games that sold really well in the Wii, such as New Super Mario Bros. Wii. So they made New Super Mario Bros. Wii U. And at this point, this was the fourth New Super Mario Bros. Game. The fans were tired. Like there was nothing about New Super Mario Bros. Wii U that was new compared to previous installments, right? Like every other game kind of had like its own gimmick, right? So the first one, it's the return to 2D games. The second one was multiplayer, and the third one was coins for some reason.
What are you talking about, Jordan? They added the like squirrel suit.
Oh, yeah. Like its gimmick was that if you had the tablet, you could create obstacles for everyone else to run into. I know they probably thought that people would use them to like help people playing, but it created obstacles.
Yeah, it created player one is being a jerk to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of that, like it's such a bad like idea for asymmetric gameplay, which they were trying to sell. Because it just showed one person basically just sitting on the sideline, kind of like you weren't actually playing the game, placing the blocks. You were a support character, effectively. Yeah. I really liked the concept of the Wii U when it came out because I liked the idea of asynchronous gameplay. I also like the idea of being able to manage menus with a tablet. I also thought of like RTSs. RTSs historically have a really hard time releasing on consoles. And here you have like the ability to have like an actual mini map that is honestly would have been really, really useful in an RTS setting game. We never ended up getting an RTS game, but unless you count Pikmin, Pikmin is kind of like a light RTS.
Well, and Pikmin needed that map so much.
Yeah. And Pikmin was great. But as much as I liked the concept and I could see it, Nintendo did a very, very poor job of showing why or how this concept could work to the masses within its first year of release.
Yep, absolutely. And it was honestly such a shame after the powerhouse. Well, not powerhouse as in like power of the console, but like powerhouse in terms of sales and recognition. The Wii was to just jump to the Wii U, and everyone's confused about what makes it work, and no major games that took serious advantage of the console's quirks until later into its life. And that's the bummer right there.
It felt like the hardware team was not communicating with the software team.
Yeah. And it took us until probably the third year of the Wii U's life, so literally the second half, to start getting games that actually worked for the console.
Well, and on top of that, the third year was like the only year games released.
Yeah, true.
Because there was nothing in 2016. I will still point out that we put Star Fox Guard as like our 7th best game of that year.
Which was the like side release with Star Fox Zero.
Like that was a brutal drought.
Yeah.
Because the 3DS went into a drought. And when the 3DS went into a drought, the Wii U definitely couldn't pick up the slack.
No. I don't know. I mean, looking back, I was excited for the Wii U, but I didn't get the chance to really play it for 2 years because I was living in Peru for 2 years. So, that's kind of a gap in my history. And honestly, I didn't miss much, did I?
No,
the first 2 years.
Did not. That was a frustrating generation as a Nintendo fan. Yeah, I actually took a break from gaming for like a whole year because of it. Because like it wasn't like the PS4 and Xbox One were off to a great start either, from content wise. Like that was those first few years of that generation were just really rough in general.
Yeah. And honestly, like looking back on the amount of time that the Wii U was an active console, just those like handful of years, 4.5 years, it felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. It felt longer than the Switch lifespan so far.
Yeah. And it's crazy looking back, like the Switch has had a longer life than the Wii U did already. Or we're hitting the breaking point very, very soon.
Yeah. It turns out that time goes faster when you're actually having fun with your system.
Yeah, crazy. I also kind of wanted to bring up another point that I don't think too many Nintendo fans realize about the Wii U era, considering the Switch is so much larger than the Wii U was that many of the now Nintendo fans just weren't aware of this fact. One of the big reasons why the Wii U also didn't do as well as it could have was because of Nintendo's policy around content creation on YouTube back during those years.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that era.
Oh,
Jordan.
How could I forget? We were making content at that during those years.
Yeah, and it was scary. Like if you got any sort of money from YouTube and you were doing Nintendo content, they could take a significant cut of any of the money that you made from it. It was essentially like, you are not allowed to make content for our stuff without us getting a significant amount of money from it. And in some cases, to get a better cut meant that you had to sign up for Nintendo's like content creator partnership program or whatever they called it, where it was like, okay, you can get a slightly better cut of the ad revenue when you talk about or play our products, but you can only ever do Nintendo content on your channel.
Yeah, and this really didn't work for that era because that was when Twitch was starting to become a thing. And a lot of advertising, like communication, was funneling through YouTube for gaming in specific. So just cutting off that like information stream. Yeah, it definitely it definitely hurt the Wii U's chances for success. I think Mario Maker would have been a much, much bigger success than it was.
Oh, absolutely.
if they just allowed people to play it.
Like, I don't think people understand that in like 2013 and 2014, that was when the internet really pivoted to getting reviews from average Joes instead of just like listening to reviews from journalists from, potentially IGN or other big review sites. People wanted to see other folks on YouTube and Twitch play the games before they bought them. And that's still very much a thing now. I know that some Twitch streamers get enormous numbers during big console launches because they get all sorts of viewers, or not console launches, game launches, because viewers want to see their favorite personality play through the game a little bit before they even pick it up. That's how they enjoy things. And Nintendo basically didn't allow that unless you followed their very strict rules and didn't make as much money as if you were playing on other consoles. So that type of advertising was more powerful than Nintendo realized. And they dropped that program like just before the Switch launched, I think. So I think they realized it way too late.
Yeah, they were very, very slow to pick it up. But so
those 4.5 years were just such a weird time to be Nintendo fans, like for real.
And it's not like the Wii era was like that great as a Nintendo fan either. So it hurt especially hard. Nintendo felt like it was chasing this blue ocean market, which is fine to go for. But in the process of doing that, it felt like they were leaving Nintendo fans behind. And then we entered into the Wii U era where they continued that chase, but the blue ocean just didn't show up.
Right. You no longer had all of the elderly people that wanted to play Wii Sports buying the console. You didn't have all of the titles across a massive variety of genres that appealed to gamers of all types. They only really had first party Nintendo games and a decent chunk of indies. But I mean, it was just crazy. Honestly, looking back, I'm like, I don't know how we survived that era without completely jumping ship.
Well, I mean, I kind of did jump ship.
True.
I took a break for a year or so, mostly focusing on Magic and Cardboard. But I also played a lot of PlayStation during that time.
Yeah. I guess that was a pretty good time for me. That was when I could focus in on my undergraduate studies. So that kind of worked out in the long run, I guess. But anyway, I don't know what else there really is to kind of rant about with it when it came to the Wii U period. Why don't we talk about like the list of games that came out on the Wii U, like the top 20, because there were only really like 24 major Nintendo titles, right?
Yeah, let's quickly go over that list.
All right. Do you want to, or should I?
Oh, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
So, surprise, surprise, number one was Mario Kart, specifically Mario Kart 8.
Which is still number one on the Switch.
Yeah. 8.4. Like, I think if you were to combine its Wii U sales with its Switch sales, it's just about to pass the original Mario Bros. For the best-selling Mario Bros. Game.
That's
in
insane.
The franchise. And the original Mario Bros. Was packed in with the NES. So, right. Yeah, it's nuts. Second place was Mario 3D World at 5.8 million. And then New Super Mario Bros. U at 5.8. I'm kind of surprised that Mario Bros. U was this high, I guess.
Yeah.
It was the launch game, right? What else
I think so. And we know that Japan loves 2D Mario. So I'm sure they jumped on that.
Yeah. But I'm just mostly surprised it outsold Mario Maker.
True. Though Mario Maker was a later title. And I'm sure a lot of people jumped ship by that point.
Yeah. Fourth place is Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, and then Nintendo Land, Splatoon, Mario Maker, New Super Luigi U, Wind Waker HD, Mario Party 10, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Wii Party U, Breath of the Wild, Yoshi's Woolly World, Minecraft, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Pikmin 3, Paper Mario Color Splash, Twilight Princess, and then Hyrule Warriors tied with Pokken. That is a lot of Mario.
Yeah, it's a lot of Mario content. Let's see, how many Marios are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 if you count Yoshi's Woolly World.
I count Yoshi's. You counted Captain Toad, right? And Paper
Yeah,
Mario.
I counted Captain Toad and Color Splash.
And then he's also in Smash Bros. So,
Oh yeah, true. So I guess that counts too.
so more than half.
Mario was the star.
More than half of the top 20. Other notable games that released were Xenoblade Chronicles X, both Bayonettas, and Star Fox Zero. I guess they didn't reach the 1 million mark.
And that's it. I think that the Switch first party lineup has like more than doubled that.
Oh yeah. Like none of these games would even show up on the top 20 list.
Yeah.
On the Switch.
Well, and some of these games have had like 2 sequels on the Switch, like Splatoon. We got Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 on the Switch already. We got 3 Xenoblade games. I mean, 4 if you count Torna. We got both Bayonettas again and a new Bayonetta. Like, we got all sorts of stuff from Nintendo. What's really interesting about this list, too, is all of the ports that made it to Switch, right? How many of these did we count?
About 14 from this list of games. 14 of these games were either ported or had a sequel that kind of made the original redundant. Because they were like for the case of, say, Mario Maker or whatever, right? Mario Maker 2 is just a strictly better version of Mario Maker.
Right. Though some people would argue that it's not in some very specific ways, but they'd argue that with all of them. Like Smash Bros. Wii U got Smash Ultimate, Splatoon got 2 and 3, that kind of stuff. But
right.
Yeah.
But it's more similar in design. Like you can easily pick up the sequel and never play the original. Whereas something like, say, if they were to make Xenoblade Chronicles X2, we wouldn't count that as a redundant sequel because you have to play through the first one effectively. Like the first one is a standalone experience at that point, right?
Right. I agree with that. Though one other interesting one here is that Yoshi's Woolly World, we didn't count on our list of ports, but for whatever reason, they also re-released it on 3DS, like after the Switch came out, I think.
I feel like they really should have ported more 3DS games to the Wii U and just made them HD because it had the second screen. It could easily make those games work. It literally had virtual console games of the original Nintendo DS.
Yeah, totally did.
You could play Prime Hunters. I think you can also play Spirit Tracks on the Wii U.
I think so. I honestly don't remember. I didn't really care for the DS Wii U games or the Wii U DS releases. But I mean, I think they could have also done with like Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D and some of those other slightly more higher profile 3DS games that were basically just remakes. They could have also just pushed those to Wii U, but apparently it wasn't worth it after the super lackluster launch, because after that launch, it seems like all hands were on deck to clear out the pipeline for whatever was in the works for the Wii U and get ready for Switch.
Yeah. Although the Wii U did have a good launch, like it sold out its first day or whatever. This is why I keep saying, like, I think it's better to have a release in spring than during the holidays, because you're basically with a new console guaranteed 2 sellout days, release and your first holiday. And I don't understand why you'd want to combine those 2 days together.
I don't either. I mean, the Switch released in spring, and then we had those 2 periods of sellouts right at the beginning and right around Christmas. And it was great. A lot of people got their Switches in those periods. So,
yeah. So when did you pick up your Wii U? Did you have?
I have never owned my own Wii U. That's the problem. Technically, we have like a family Wii U that I played on a lot when I would come home for the weekends and over the summers as an undergrad. And I think that I kind of have inherited that Wii U, though it's in storage in our garage. And I really don't want to get it out because I'd rather just play on my Switch or my PC most of the games anyway. But, you know, it was around 2014 that I started playing because, again, I was in Peru until that summer. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of really great, fun memories playing on the Wii U, but I was mostly at the mercy of either what I was playing when I came home, like I said, or what one of my roommates, who is a mutual friend of ours, what he had on his Switch or his Wii U. So I mean, it was kind of like a weird era where I actually mostly played on my 3DS for those like 2 years before or 3 years before the Switch came out.
Yeah. I got mine for Monster Hunter. Surprise, surprise.
What?
Yeah. So they made an Ultimate Edition of Tri from the Wii. And they ported it to the 3DS, and I tried playing it on 3DS, and I just could not stand playing Monster Hunter on the 3DS. It's a bit too much of an action-oriented game for a single joystick. And so when they ported it to the Wii U, I was like, all right, I'm getting it for the Wii U. And on top of that, they allowed cross-save functionality, so you could play on both systems. So that was the reason why I got the Wii U, just to protect my hands from cramping up.
Not a bad
Monster
call.
Hunter. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of that, that's another reason why they should have ported Kid Icarus to the Wii U as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Which is why I'm surprised like they didn't port more games from the 3DS to the Wii U, because it could have handled them. Like,
easily.
You would have to like probably make an emulator maybe and just HDify it somehow. Like they if they were to do it, they would have done it a very lazy approach, but it still would have been nice, just so I could have Kid Icarus in a functional manner.
Maybe the Nintendo compiler could have just compiled the game for Wii U. I don't know.
Although, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that if they were to do that lazy approach, then you still could only use one joystick for Kid Icarus, and then your hand would hurt even more, because then it'd have to carry.
Yeah,
that
but you
giant...
could then rest the entire Wii U tablet on your lap or something.
Oh, I was thinking like you would be holding the tablet. It would be way
Why would
heavier.
you hold it straight up? Like, you could have it on your lap while you're attacking. You don't need to look at the second screen while you're playing that game. The problem was that you were holding it up because it was a smaller console that you couldn't just put it in your lap without hunching your head down. Interesting time period, lots of interesting games, and of course, a lot of the best games from the Switch or the Wii U. I keep saying Switch first. I'm sorry. A lot of the major games just made their way to Switch anyway. So it's like, what's the point of even getting a Wii U now, unless you really, really, really want to play Nintendo Land or Paper Mario Color Splash or either of the HD Zelda games or Xenoblade Chronicles X. I mean, those are like really the only reason why you'd want to go back to the Wii U.
There is one other reason. The Wii U is a phenomenal emulation station.
True.
It's probably one of the best systems out there for emulation.
But
for Nintendo
watch
games.
out. If you're going to get things on the eShop, you have like a month and a half left. Good luck.
Oh no, I was going to say that's the other reason. It's the best Metroid box, ironically, because there's no new Metroid on it.
True.
It has like every Metroid game ever made on it except for Dread.
Yeah, because you can even buy the Prime Trilogy digitally.
Yep, and Other M. Other M's also on there.
Oh, that's right. I mean, the Wii U did have great backwards compatibility with the Wii, so you also had all of that library on a more...
Yeah, but it also had the Game Boy Advance releases.
True.
Metroid 2, Metroid 1, Zero Mission, Metroid Fusion. It had Metroid Prime Hunters. Like, it's literally like the best place to play the entire Metroid franchise.
But you literally have until March to buy them officially.
Yeah, yeah.
So
after that, it's... I hope you have a deep pocket for retro games, or you have a good emulation station, because Nintendo's not releasing these games for some reason, and I don't know why.
Because they're Nintendo. The scarcity is what drives up the interest, I guess.
I mean, scarcity doesn't mean anything if you're not ever going to sell them.
They don't know that.
Like, it's not like Nintendo's in the aftermarket market, as far as we know. I feel like that'd be illegal.
Maybe they're the ones that are swooping up all of the copies from GameStop.
I feel like that'd be illegal. Like, you're potentially opening yourself for some sort of lawsuit, intentionally limiting supply so that you can sell after. Yeah, that sounds like a mess. Anyway, I don't think they're doing that.
No. Why don't we move on instead and talk about some of our favorite Wii U games, right? You know, we kind of talked about how like obnoxious the console was, how weird its launch was, and how dry those years were. But like, let's talk about some of our favorite games that were originally on the Wii U.
My favorite game that was originally on the Wii U is Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze.
Oh, it's one of the best platformers ever made, baby.
Yeah. It's it's so good. It's peak retro in my opinion. When it came out originally, there was a bunch of people that were like disappointed because why is retro making a 2D game, as if being a 2D game somehow diminishes its relevance as a fun experience, whatever. But
did they like forget that we got Donkey Kong Country Returns from retro too?
There were also people complaining about that too. For some reason, Nintendo fans got in their head that because we were moving to an HD console, that retro was then going to make Metroid Prime 4 for the Wii U. And so they just were really upset when we were getting another Donkey Kong game, even though the Wii Donkey Kong game was also really great.
Yep.
But oh man, Tropical Freeze is another level. For starters, they got rid of the gimmick in the motion control gimmicks in the original one. And then
no need to shake the Wii remote to slam on the ground.
And it's just top tier music, top tier level design.
And like thematic level design too.
Yeah.
Like every island tells a story. It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite island that you go to, or world, I guess, is the one where you're like making popsicles, where it starts with the picking of the berries, then turning them into juice, then freezing them. I mean, it's so good.
Also that the polar bear can get one and try and eat it, and then you knock it out of his hand and he gets angry.
Yeah. It's so good. That game is just so well put together.
Yeah.
Clearly thought out from top to bottom. So good.
Yeah. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is the best game.
Yeah. And fortunately, you can get it on Switch now. So you don't even have to get a Wii U to play through it. But
yeah, with funky mode.
Yeah.
That was one of the other things. There was a bunch of criticism that the game was a bit too hard. Retro really amped up the difficulty. I like the original mode, but they made funky mode so that people are getting into the franchise can easily pick it up, which I think is a fine addition.
Yeah, I agree. It made the speedruns of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze really fun too, because Funky was way faster than the other characters.
I mean, yeah.
It's pretty good. I mean, I didn't really play Tropical Freeze very much. I played some of it on the Wii U, but it wasn't until the Switch where I got to kind of play through the entirety of it, and I absolutely love it. So, but it is a Wii U game at heart, even though it was re-released.
Yeah. I guess this is kind of cheating. I am saying Monster Hunter Tri Ultimate, mostly because that's probably the game I played the most on the Wii U. It is technically a port of a Wii game, because the original came out, but it is like a refresh. I don't know. Like if you think of like in terms of fighting games or whatever, right? They always have like the Ultimate Edition. This is the Ultimate Edition of the Monster Hunter game. It's not a fighting game, but it's the same kind of concept. It's a Capcom game, and Capcom just does it that way with all their stuff. So Monster Hunter 3 is the game that got me into Monster Hunter. And this is probably my third favorite Monster Hunter. And it might just be because of nostalgia reasons. A lot of people have issues with it because the water levels were really polarizing to the point where they haven't done water levels since that game. But
well, there you go.
It was a really fun experience. And like the main reason to play games online on the Wii U, in my opinion. Yeah. And then the other game that I would put in my top 3 is Shovel Knight. I thought Shovel Knight was absolutely phenomenal. A really good callback. It felt like it was made for the Nintendo fan base.
Yeah.
And that's why it originally came out on the Wii U. I think it also came out on PC, which is fine. Like, games don't need to be exclusive.
No, they don't.
To be good.
Though I would say that Shovel Knight is more of a 3DS game for me, because that's where I played it.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even know there was a 3DS version.
It came out later, I think, but I definitely played it on my 3DS. But then, of course, after the Switch came out, it was almost a launch day title. No, it was a launch day title because they also gave us Spectre Knight for Switch. Yeah. So, yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, and I have it on Switch as well. So,
yeah, I guess it's worth it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's great. It's one of my favorite platformers ever made.
Yeah, I'd say it also got me into indie games in general. Like, it made me much more open to the indie gaming scene.
Yeah, I was a bit more into indie games before that point because of Super Meat Boy, but
right. I mean, I'd played a couple on PC. Like, I played quite a bit of Bastion and
World of Goo.
Yeah, I played some World of Goo too. But it wasn't really until Shovel Knight that I was like, I should actually seek out some of these indie games and give them a good shot. So, and now they're making a like Zelda type game the Yacht Club Games is. So that's really exciting to look forward to.
It's listed for the end of the year, so it probably is coming out next year.
Yeah. I hope it's
knowing
good too.
the development cycle of King Knight, I don't have a lot of confidence in Yacht Club Games getting things out quickly, but you know what? That's fine. Because
I swear Yacht Club got completely held back on making the card game from King Knight crazy good. So I don't know, like making it super balanced with a lot of intricacies. I don't know. That was the impression I got.
What is your favorite character to play in Shovel Knight of the four?
So Shovel Knight's a classic. I love Shovel Knight. I love the movement options that Spectre Knight gives us and how it like remixes the stages much more. But Plague Knight was my favorite, honestly.
Yeah, I really like Plague Knight.
I loved how in Plague Knight you could change up your weapons constantly and just throw different types of potion bottles, and it was just super fun to play around with that kind of mess. It felt more customizable than Shovel Knight's run did.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say Spectre Knight's my favorite, just because, like you said, the movement options are so good. It just made Shovel Knight feel like a high action game, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. Plus, Spectre Knight also honestly remixed the music so that in some cases the stage's music in Spectre Knight is better than it was in Shovel Knight. And I really loved Shovel Knight's bass music.
Yeah. All four of them are great.
Yeah.
But Spectre Knight's my favorite. And
King Knight's my least favorite, but whatever.
Yeah. King Knight's still good. I would still play through it. But it does feel like they kind of hit a like development wall of ideas.
It's like, dang it, we promised we'd give him King Knight. So they had to figure out how to make it work, I guess.
Yeah.
It was still really fun, but definitely Plague Knight and Spectre Knight are my top two. So yeah, I mean, and beyond Shovel Knight, I think one of the other major staples of the Wii U for me was Pikmin 3. I played the heck out of Pikmin 3. That was like the one game that I would constantly play on the Wii U when I would come home. I don't know what it was. I loved Pikmin 3.
Yeah, I really, really liked Pikmin 3. I was just a little disappointed that there weren't that many bosses, because the bosses in Pikmin have been typically my favorite part of the franchise.
I totally agree.
The bosses it does have are like the best bosses in the franchise.
Oh yeah, easily.
But there just isn't a lot of them.
I feel like if Pikmin 4 comes out and it's a hybrid between 3 and 2, I will be over the moon. Like, it'll be the perfect Pikmin game.
Yeah.
I want the roguelite dungeons like we had in Pikmin 2, because that provided an insane amount of content to be able to strategize and play around those long dungeons, but also having some of the more story-ish elements and the really pretty and expansive overworld areas that were also really tightly designed from Pikmin 3 would just be so good.
Yeah. Also, Pikmin 3 felt a bit short in comparison to the other Pikmin games. I would like it to be a bit longer. It felt like they had a bit too much emphasis on the extra material. So like time attack and multiplayer and all that. And like all those modes are great. But Pikmin to me feels like it should be a campaign first. And all that other stuff is just a fun secondary thing. Honestly, you could put a lot of that stuff in like a free title update later on in its development, and I'd be happy. And
and a lot of that extra stuff was a DLC on the Wii U, and then on the Switch, they just added it for free. So the Switch version gets all of that complete. I mean, there were quite a few time attack and multiplayer maps that were added as DLC later.
So I think my review of Pikmin 3 is I liked it. I liked it a lot. I wish there was more of it.
I agree.
And that's why I like Pikmin 2 more, because there is more of it.
Right. I mean, and some of the greatest things about Pikmin 3 were they really updated the AI of the Pikmin, and the ability to make your captains go do things too, along with sending off the Pikmin, made it so much more fun to be able to multitask and tackle different things. And that I think was what made Pikmin 3 stand out more than anything. And I just hope that we get a lot more of the campaigny stuff from 2 mixed in with the 3 stuff, because I think that would make for the perfect mix.
Yeah. They focus pretty hard on the tablet being like a mini map, like I was saying, for an RTS. They really were trying to take a lot of elements of RTS and mix them into the unique gameplay style of Pikmin. Which, because it's Pikmin's not an RTS. I'm not saying it's an RTS, but it does share elements with an RTS more than most other games do.
Yeah.
And later on, when we get closer to Pikmin's release, we should do an episode. I have some things that I would like to see them borrow from RTS that they have not yet done.
All right, we'll put that on the list of topics. As we get closer to Pikmin 4, I think we should totally review the Pikmin series as is. That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Moving on then, I guess. One of my other favorites and that like really stood out to me was Splatoon. Like, I love Splatoon now. I didn't really get into the series until 2 came out on the Switch, but I had a blast playing it on the Wii U. There was just something super fun about the idea that you were a squid kid hybrid and you could do all sorts of really fun things in a shooter game. Like, it was just so fun and so good. And one of my favorite things that I did over Christmas break was I found a lot of YouTube essays on the development of Splatoon 1 and like how they came up with its ideas. And it was just so fun hearing about its history. It was just like the developers at Nintendo apparently sometimes just make random one-off little mini games for each other that are like really not stylized, but they play around with ideas. And one of the developers was like, okay, you've got these 2 blocks of tofu of different colors that shoot paint out on the ground. And then when you go over your color of paint, you can choose to sink into it and then the other person can't see you. And from there, it just evolved into squids shooting ink at each other. And it's just so cool. And it's kind of taken over a lot of cultural real estate in Japan by now. And of course, we have Splatoon 3, which I'm not going to get into some of the current balancing problems that we're having with Splatoon 3's meta right now, but Splatoon 2 was phenomenal. I love Splatoon 1's single player campaign. Callie and Mari are amazing characters. And anyway, if it weren't for the Wii U, we would not have had Splatoon, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, this and Mario Maker were the 2 really innovative titles that Nintendo came out of the generation with.
Yeah.
And I remember us all being like really surprised by Splatoon because no one took it seriously before it came out.
What is this game? It's too colorful.
But when it did come out, it caught on like fire and was very successful and is honestly one of the better games on the Wii U.
I agree.
It just had like a few issues that I feel like took until the 3rd game.
Yeah.
Just to like really hammer out for me to like really get into it.
I mean, I feel kind of the same way. Like, as much as I love 2, I kind of stopped playing 2's ranked modes fairly early in its life. And it wasn't until 3 that I've like, yeah, I kind of play it almost every single day now. But anyway, I'm really grateful for the Wii U for giving us Splatoon. Like, it's such a staple for Nintendo now. Like, honestly, I can see Splatoon just getting larger and larger as a property for Nintendo. Plus, it has banging music, some of the best music in Nintendo. Moving on, I guess, we've kind of talked about Smash Bros. That was really important for us, I think, as friends. We played a lot of Smash Bros. Wii U. And that was pretty great. We kind of talked about some of the good things about it and some of the issues earlier in the episode, so I don't think we need to hammer into it too much unless you have anything else to add.
No, like it was good for its time. I feel like it's been completely outclassed by Ultimate at this point.
Yeah.
I have no intention of ever going back to Smash 4 now because of it.
No, there's no way. Why would you pick it up? Still really great for the time, for the Wii U. And then, of course, like I think some of the more beloved favorites that still haven't made their way to the Switch for some reason are the Zelda HD games, especially Wind Waker HD, in my opinion. I don't know what it is. Those games are just so much better with their HD remakes.
Well, so they said that they did Wind Waker HD to like get familiar with HD development. Like, once again, it was a recurring theme. Nintendo did not have a lot of experience with HD development. And they did a gorgeous job with Wind Waker.
It still looks good.
Yeah, and I really want it on the Switch because I don't want to have to dig out my Wii U. I know it's a really lazy excuse. Although at the same time, it did utilize one of my favorite functions of the Wii U in that your menu is on the additional screen.
Yes, all the time. So you can quick swap your items constantly.
Yeah, which is a very nice option. They would obviously have to take that away for the Switch version. It would play a lot more like the GameCube version, which is still Wind Waker is one of the best Zelda games ever made. So that's fine.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things about Wind Waker HD, for me anyway, when I consider its legacy, is that it finally gave speedrunners the holy grail of Wind Waker speedruns, which was barrier skip, so that they didn't have to play the second half of the game. Like the item sliding glitch that you can do, like when you go into first person, you can actually move around with Link. There's a glitch where you can build up your speed like almost indefinitely in that mode, and you just launch yourself through the barrier. And that then inspired the speedrunners to go take a look again at Wind Waker for the GameCube, and they figured out how to pull off barrier skip in that game too. So that's I think the biggest legacy for Wind Waker HD in my mind, because I've been following that speedrun scene for a long time.
I was expecting you to say the faster sale.
Oh, the faster sale is also really important. In fact, it's so important that like Wind Waker randomizers patch that in as the default sale. Anyway.
Twilight Princess didn't get quite as much love as Wind Waker.
No.
They outsourced it to an Australian company, but it still did really well.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
It was a good way to play Twilight Princess. I think it looks really nice and really great. They finally like fixed all of the really kind of muddy textures that hold the GameCube and Wii version back, I think.
Yeah.
Like especially during the Twilight sequences. So now it actually looks really pretty.
Yeah.
Though I wish they could have done a little bit more with quality of life stuff and maybe added a couple of additional changes, kind of like they did with Wind Waker HD with like a couple of random little things. But other than that, it was fine for me.
It is it is my preferred way to play Twilight Princess for one reason and one reason only. Well, a combination of two reasons.
I know what it is.
Yeah. So it added master mode. So that way damage is doubled, right? So
yep.
Wonderful. Twilight Princess was too easy. So having double damage is real nice. And then they added the Ganon amiibo, which doubles damage again. So you take 4 times damage. Which would probably sound like a lot, but one of my biggest problems with Twilight Princess is everything does a quarter heart damage. So now they do 1 heart damage. So
yeah, so it's more in line with like Skyward Sword levels damage, but with only 3 hearts.
It's more in line with the rest of the franchise. It's not even like...
Well, I mean, you get a game over in Twilight Princess and it feels like you go on a slog, like a massive journey to get back to where you were. So maybe that's why they opted for the quarter heart. But
I don't know what it was, because like Twilight Princess was supposed to be the game that was going to appeal to the hardcore gamers. Like, oh, Wind Waker is too kid friendly. We need to make a more hardcore game, and they made it the easiest Zelda game ever made. And I don't know why.
I don't know what they were thinking with that, but hey, at least you got your what did people end up calling it? Like Ganon Master Mode or something like that?
Yeah, Ganon mode.
I remember you complaining about one part of the game. Well, not complaining, but like
I was
talking about how difficult
I was having a blast. I loved it. So like,
there was one part I swear where you were like, I'm literally getting one shot by this mid boss or something.
But I was doing a 3 heart challenge run in Ganon mode. And it was the frog mini boss from the water temple. Each one of those tadpoles does a whole cart of damage, and there's no recovery hearts in this mode.
Yeah. That's right. So you got swarmed. That's awesome.
It was fun. It was a very, very fun part. The other really hard part was I wouldn't say the tadpole part was hard. It was just like more difficult than like Zelda typically is.
Yeah.
But the part where you had to like guide the cart with what was it, the sick girl or something? That
with
was
Aaliyah.
Brutal in Ganon mode 3 heart challenge.
Yeah, the bomb carrying birds. Right?
Oh yeah. Any of the segments with like forced riding or whatever we had to do horse combat got significantly harder in that mode.
That's amazing. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so Twilight Princess HD was a good idea, good option. Glad they did it. And then of course, like some of the other big titles for me were like Bayo 1 and 2, though I didn't really play those until the Switch. And I really enjoy the Bayo games, and I'm glad that Nintendo kind of saved Platinum with Bayo 2. Though I don't know if it was really saved. I don't know what Nintendo did. They just like bought the rights for publishing from Platinum, I guess.
Yeah, I think the Bayo franchise. So Bayo 1, it was a critical success, but I don't think it was a very commercial success.
Yeah.
And so Platinum wanted to do another one, but Sega was not having it because it just wasn't that profitable. And Nintendo was desperate for mature rated content for the Wii U. So they did that one, Ninja Gaiden 3, and I think Devil's Third.
Yeah, that's right.
Of the three, Bayonetta 2 definitely came out ahead of the other, like as the best like quality game to come out of that.
And they're fun games. I still haven't played 3, but I have it. So I guess I'll play that after Fire Emblem. What I think we're getting at here with these, like our favorite Wii U games, is that we actually do have a lot of good memories on the Wii U. You know, we kind of harped on how it was kind of a terrible time to be a Nintendo fan. And it was in terms of content coming out. But we did have some really awesome games and great moments on the Wii U. And I look back fondly on a lot of those gaming experiences, even though it was still rather difficult being like, okay, is Nintendo ever going to release anything else, especially during the drought years?
Yeah. 2016 was, I think Star Fox Zero was the only game that year.
Yeah.
Along with
Star Fox Zero and replay everything on your 3DS while you waited for the Switch, or as we knew it then, the NX.
Yeah. And then on top of that, we also got, the 3DS had Kirby and Pokemon that year. But
True. That's true. So, I mean, we had some stuff to play with. It's just nothing on the HD side on the main console front.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap up here our discussion then, Jordan, do you think the Wii U had a powerful legacy or not?
I think Nintendo learned a few lessons from this generation.
Yeah, I'd say so.
not good ones.
No.
I don't feel like it met my expectations. Once again, like I had high hopes for the asymmetric gameplay, and I believed Reggie's sweet words that they were going to actually focus on hardcore gamers this time. We promise, guys. Yeah. So there's a lot of people that say like the Wii U is unfairly rated by the Nintendo community because when all the games got ported to Switch, they sold really well. People really liked them. So it clearly did have like good games, and it did have good games. It just didn't have any like evergreen titles or system sellers or really any big draws, and you better be a Mario fan or else.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. I mean, yeah, looking back, yes, there were some serious bangers on there, but I also think that people love them now on the Switch simply because there's a much broader audience on the Switch to appreciate them. You know, those of us that had Wii U's and managed to get these games, you know, we loved them. We talked for like, 25 minutes about some of our favorite memories on the Wii U, especially with our favorite games. You know, I think we recognized then that they were good titles. It was just nobody was playing them. And there was no real reason to buy a Wii U if you didn't already have one, because Nintendo wasn't giving us a constant stream of games. The eShop had a couple of awesome indie games, but not enough to like draw in the casual gaming crowd. And like you said, there were no evergreen titles to really keep the console alive during those massive years of drought. Meanwhile, with the Switch, not only do we have Nintendo support with all sorts of wonderful and great games, we're surrounded by release after release from third-party and indie publishers. And we can appreciate these games in the context of the Switch because more people are picking them up and telling their friends, hey, you should pick up this game. You should play it because they already have Switches. So did the Wii U have great games when it was around? Yeah, clearly. But the ports on the Switch are also better because they added more quality of life changes and made a lot of fixes to them too. So I don't know. I think that it's not fair to say that we didn't appreciate the games when they were on the Wii U, when I think we did.
Yeah. I mean, you and I, we started a podcast during the middle of a Wii U drought. So
true. When did we start? 2015?
It was right after Splatoon came out.
Yeah. Because like that was our third episode or something.
Yeah, it was one of our first episodes. And then after Splatoon came out, there was nothing until Star Fox, and then nothing until the Switch.
We spent a lot of time talking about 3DS games.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think the Wii U has a strong legacy, but it's also kind of overshadowed by the fact that most of the good games are on Switch now. So why would you get a Wii U unless you really wanted to play Xenoblade Chronicles X or Star Fox Zero or Paper Mario Color Splash or any of the Zelda HD remakes that aren't on Switch yet? Like, there's not a lot of draw to go back to the Wii U, considering a lot of the good stuff's on Switch.
Yeah. Although I will say I almost dusted off my Wii U just to have a nostalgia trip through Monster Hunter Try again the other day.
Yeah. I think we look back fondly on the Wii U era. The Wii U era was also when you and I basically reconnected as friends after high school. So that was also great. And we learned to be patient with Nintendo, right?
I feel like I learned to be patient with Nintendo during the Wii era.
True.
The Wii U era was when I learned to not have expectations.
Ah, yes. Except you forgot that last year when we made our predictions for 2022.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes we have to relearn old lessons. But anyway, I think the Wii U was a fun piece of hardware. I think there were great things on there. I'm still incredibly grateful for all of the memories I have playing the console, especially with some of the series that really took off because of the Wii U. And I'm just also grateful that the failure of the Wii U led to an even more successful Switch.
Yeah. And like the Wii U did feel like a prototype to the Switch, and the Switch is one of the best consoles Nintendo's ever made. So yeah, it ended up being a good thing in the end. And it also made Nintendo hammer out all their bad ideas before getting to the Switch. So,
yep, exactly. That's a really great statement, Jordan.
Do you remember the Miiverse thing?
No, somewhat.
When Nintendo was trying to make a social media.
Oh, yeah, Miiverse. I can't believe we forgot to talk about that.
I just realized that. We didn't even talk about that. Like, so Nintendo was trying to chase trends with the Wii U, where one, like, the tablet was easily, like, they were clearly trying to chase, like, the tablet market at the time.
Yeah.
And then they also had, I think it was the Miiverse. I don't remember. But it was basically Twitter, but for Nintendo. And no one used it.
But the people that did were absolutely hilarious. I highly recommend going and looking up some of the old archives of the funniest things said there. I mean, the Miiverse kind of lives on somewhat in Splatoon. You can still make those types of posts that show up to everybody.
Right. Man, I remember you could put like pictures in a bottle in Wind Waker and then throw it out and just hope that someone else like actually looked at it. You could do like silly poses. There were some fun things with it, but it was a really jarring, weird thing, part of Nintendo's history that I completely forgot about until just now.
Yeah, it was probably also one of the other reasons why the operating system was incredibly slow.
They had to dedicate RAM to this useless feature.
Probably. I mean, the Wii U is like notorious for how slow it was to boot up. Like after a while, they had to patch the operating system to have a quick start menu that you could tap on while it was loading the operating system to go straight into your game or not. Because it just took so long to load that home screen. Because they needed to load like, 100 different Mii characters, plus like a bunch of the most recent Miiverse posts, plus like all of the crazy lighting effects and menuing and stuff. It's like, I miss a lot of the character that we had with like the Wii U, 3DS and DS era menus where like we had that cool music and stuff. But like the fact that I can wake my Switch up from sleep and immediately jump into a game is a huge improvement over that. And I'll take that over the music.
Oh, yeah.
Now I don't know if there's anything else to say about the Wii U.
Now I think I'm good.
Okay, now we're good. We talked about Miiverse. We got that in there. Now that one commenter that was like, I can't believe they didn't talk about Miiverse can be over that. I don't know. All right. Well, I guess that officially wraps up our discussion on the Wii U. Unless you have anything else, Jordan.
No, I'm good.
Final call.
I'm done thinking about the Wii U for another 10 years.
Okay. Well, for the next month, you might go and pick it up to play Monster Hunter.
That's right.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the NintenFusion podcast. I think we had a really fun time reminiscing and complaining about the Wii U. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to give us a like, a thumbs up, a review, whatever is available on the app you're listening to us on. Doing so will help others find the show. You can also come to our Discord server at nintenfusion.com/discord to chat with us about Nintendo stuff and have a good time there. But with all that said, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.